Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub. And most American Jews, and I would imagine most of you watching Shalom TV right now, you know of the fact that the modern state of Israel was born on May 14th, 1948, and that the next day 6 Arab nations attacked the new Jewish state in an attempt to destroy it. That's what most American Jews and many Americans in general know. But most American Jews know very little about the actual fighting that occurred during the war, which, by the way, has never come to an end. That war has never reached its conclusion, even to this day, as far as the Arab world is concerned. The war of 1948 is still ongoing, and all it's ever been is a series of ceasefires that have interrupted the armed conflict. But one of the events surrounding the 1948 War of Independence, which many people know little or nothing about, actually took place 2 days before David Ben-Gurion read the Declaration of Independence of Israel, 2 days before the Jewish state was born, on May 12th and May 13th, 1948. Arab villagers and Arab soldiers attacked a group of 4 Jewish kibbutzim southwest of Jerusalem known as the Etzion block. This is 2 days before the Jewish state was declared. The Jews of the Etzion block knew they were all in serious danger. They'd been fighting Arabs since the United Nations had voted in favor of partition in November of the previous year, 1947. But as of May 48, all the children and nearly all of the women of Kfar Etzion, one of the villages of Etzion block, the women and most of the children had been evacuated to Yerushalayim. In the kibbutz of Kfar Etzion, one of the communities again of the Etzion block, there were around 250 Jews, almost all of whom were survivors of the Holocaust, who'd made their way to pre-state Palestine after the war. After a 2-day battle on May 12th and 13th, the Jews of Kfar Etzion surrendered. They assembled in the German monastery in the kibbutz, and there the Arabs murdered, massacred 127 Jews of Kfar Etzion. Only 4 managed to survive. Among those who were murdered by the Arabs that day was a Jew named Yechiel Rosenfeld, a Holocaust survivor. His wife Tzipora, a nurse, also died at Kfar Etzion in that battle when she was killed by grenades thrown into the monastery's cellar. Since most of the women of Kfar Etzion had already been evacuated, Yechiel and Tzipora were the only married couple to die in the Arab onslaught of Kfar Etzion. And their 1-year-old baby son, Yossi, became the only child of Kfar Etzion to be orphaned as a result of that battle. Today, his name is Yossi Ron. He is a successful entrepreneur in Israel, CEO of Trendlines Group, which helps develop technology companies that do work to improve the human condition. And Yossi Ron is one of the children of Kfar Etzion who, after the 6-Day War of 1967, when the land upon which the Etzion block then came under Israeli administration, returned to his birthplace to help recreate the Jewish communities of the Etzion block. And it's an enormous pleasure for me to introduce to you Yossi Ron. And Yossi, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it enormously.
Thank you for calling to have the opportunity.
Thank you. There are so many questions I want to ask you about your father and your mother. And again, you were 1 year old.
Yeah.
1 year old at that time. What I saw when I read about you was that for a long time of your life, you did not want to talk about this.
No.
I believe it was not until basically
7, 8 years ago.
7, 8 years ago. And again, you were 1 year old in 48. It was, I mean, you were in your 60s before you were
Yes.
comfortable
Yes.
talking about this. Before you tell me anything about the actual events as you understand them and what you know of your mother and father, who you learned much later, you learned a lot about them later in your life. Why did it take you so long to want to talk about it?
I don't know. I was thinking forward all the time. I didn't want to really to deal with the past.
Interesting.
Maybe I was afraid, that the past will pull me to the past, while I was really investing all my time and efforts to develop a family and starting something new thing and not be, go back to the past. So, but time's coming. Really what's strange, my wife was very much aware of this situation, and she was dealing with my past all the time. She really investigating all the survivors of Kfar Etzion, was talking with them all the time about me, about my mother, about my father, and tried to gather as much information as possible. So she was keeping, the family history until I really started to be very much interested in it.
What is your wife's name?
Esti?
Esti.
Yes.
You have children?
Yeah, we have children. We have 5 children today.
Mazal tov.
Yeah. We have 6. This is part of the story. Yeah.
One of them died?
Yes, one of them, a car accident. My eldest daughter, called Tzipora, after my mother. And at the age of 20, she was killed in car accident.
Where?
Same name, same age, in the very nearby our house, our home in Elkanah. And it was car accident just Erev Pesach, just before the Seder.
I'm so sorry.
Came out from the cemetery and stepped to the Seder. It was very, very difficult.
Unbelievable.
But she opened, I believe, her death a little bit opened my feelings, my emotions, maybe connected to my past better, to my parents better. Still, I didn't do anything with it, but I think it influenced me.
It did?
Yes, it
Yes. By the way, Tzipora was your daughter's name?
Yes.
Named after your mother?
Yes.
What kind of person was she?
Beautiful. Internally and externally, she was just beautiful.
What was she doing in life?
She was in the Tel Aviv University. I learned Ripui Be'isuk, helping people by occupation.
Was she becoming an occupational therapist?
Yes.
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 You must have been very, very proud of her.
Yes, I am.
Yossi, it's terrible to lose a child.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's terrible to lose anybody you love. But there's, the Jewish tradition says there's no pain greater for a parent. You're never supposed to bury a child. And you and your wife had to deal with that.
Yes.
Esti is her name.
Yes.
How did you deal with it?
I think, when we heard this, the people who came to inform us about the death of my daughter, it was 4 o'clock in the morning on the day of the Seder, just before the Seder, Erev Pesach. And I was sitting on the stairs in my house, when I heard it. And I had 2 thoughts mainly. First one was, how could it happen? I should have insurance, I already paid some premium. And then I understood that probably there is no insurance for these situations. And the other thought was, we are going to survive it. We are going to take on the family and to invest in the life family, not in the death. Of course, we remember her. We all the time, even the children, the grandchildren, knows very well about her. She's part of the family in the broad sense of being with us. So she know her, they relate to her. But we are very much concentrating on what we have and not on the other side. And we are, I think, a very happy family.
That is so wonderful to hear. Does Esti share the same perspective?
Same perspective, yes.
Well, you're lucky to have each other, too.
I think so.
It's a wonderful thing. I am so sorry that you lost your daughter. And in some way, your life pays tribute to her all the time. Mazal tov to you. And then you said that in some way it sort of encouraged you to confront.
Yeah, I would say, and I say in the tradition we received from Kfar Etzion, we used to say you are not crying in Kfar Etzion. You are in the middle of a war. As you said, we are still in the middle of the war for 66 years. While you are in a war, you are not crying. Maybe at home, when nobody sees. So we used to say that the tradition of Kfar Etzion, you are not crying. Tzipora death, my daughter, connected it to my tears, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I found a way that you can have tears and still be strong. But yet I prefer not to tear in public, okay? not to cry in public. Yeah.
Incidentally, am I correct? You were a colonel in the IDF. You were in the Air Force?
Retired, Air Force.
In the Air Force. And what did you do?
I was I am electronic engineer, and I was all the time dealing in technical aspects of the Air Force, like fire control systems, communication systems, and things like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me what you know, first about your father, Yechiel. And I've read about it, so I think I have a sense, but I find the story of your mother and father, how they met, and how each of them, separately it turned out, made their way to pre-state Palestine, is fascinating. And maybe you'll be able to talk to me at one point about what it is to be a child who I'm assuming you have no personal memories of your mother and father.
No.
And you were cheated, you were robbed of that. There are children who lose their parents, but they may have lost them after they got to know them, and they have memories. You have no memories. What you know is what you've learned. I even want to take a half step back. How did you learn who your mother and father were and what the arc of their stories is?
People told me, my father was born in a place called Opatov in the east of Poland. And he was taken to a working camp to work in ammunition manufacturing in a place called Skaržisko during the World War II. My mother was born at 1928. So when the World War II started, she was about 11. She was sent to a place called Sukhedniu, not far away from Radomsk. And then when she was 14, 3 years later, in 1942, she was taken to the same Skaržisko working camp. At about the same time.
And where was this?
Skaržisko in the east of Poland.
Okay.
And about the same time, all the family of my mother, I thought all the family, then I found later not all of them, but all of them were taken to Treblinka. In Treblinka, there was no selection. So from the train to the gas chambers immediately. And my mother was the only one survived, and later on I found someone else.
How did she survive?
She was working in manufacturing of ammunition. If your luck was to manufacture explosives, then you could live about 3-4 months only, because with all the dangerous chemicals were there, they could not survive more than 3-4 months. But my mother was lucky to handle ammunition manufacturing, and the same as my father. She found him, they met in the working camp. And my mother was at that time 14, my father was 18, so friends of them told me that he didn't relate to her at all. She was a child of 14, But she was very, very stubborn, what we call today assertive and insistent. And when they finished the war, they were very, very close friends. She was taken also they both were taken after 2 years to Częstochowa working place. And they were liberated by the Russian in January 17th, 1945. And three weeks later, they were married in Lodz.
Amazing.
Amazing. She was quarter to 17 at that time. So she went to learn in Lodz. They stayed all the year of 1945 in Lodz. Early 1946, they moved to Germany, to a Pocking transfer camp. And then just before Pesach of 1946, my mother received a proposal to have a certificate to go to Israel as a trainer or instructor of children of the 10 age. And she went to Israel, but alone.
Yes, your father did not receive the invitation.
No.
So your mother gets to go.
The British gave certificate.
Yes.
This was the name. Yeah.
Yes. So your mother gets a certificate, your father does not.
Yeah.
But they do decide she should go.
Yes.
And she
both.
does go.
Yes,
He is determined to get to Palestine.
of course.
And what happens?
And so she arrived Kfar Etzion at May and gave birth to me in December 1946.
She was already pregnant when she went
Yes.
to...
Yes, she was pregnant, second month or so. And she gave birth to me in Kfar Etzion in December 1946.
Your father's not there yet?
No,
Okay.
it was Hanukkah, fifth candle of Hanukkah. And my father at the same time was trying to reach Israel. At the end, he came as a ma'apil, illegal immigrant, in a ship called Latrun. They were captured by the British, and he was sent to prisoners' camp in Cyprus. He was sitting there for about 7 months and was moved to Israel to another prisoners' camps in Atlit for 1 month in May, and they met in June 1947. They met in Kfar Etzion, while I was 7 months old at that time.
And this means your father was released from Atlit?
Yes,
Okay. He's now free. He goes to Kfar Etzion, and he and your mother are reunited.
really.
And as far as you know, they have a life in Kfar Etzion.
Beautiful life.
A
They
beautiful
were
life.
happy in Kfar Etzion.
Is that what you were told?
Yes, I see letters of them talking about the lives in Kfar Etzion. They were really happy there.
Were they?
All of them, all the Holocaust survivors who used to live in Kfar Etzion, when Kfar Etzion was destroyed, they took it much, much harder than the remembrance of the Shoah. They saw that the loss of Kfar Etzion for them was
bigger?
much more influensive than the memories they had from the Shoah.
Yossi, why is that?
Because, you know, they had a feeling really they are building a new world. They were so happy being in Israel, creation of a new place, and doing something very few people in the history had, you know, the chance to rebuild a country, a nation. So I think they have such a big challenge that they felt that they are doing it, really live in a big time. They understood that they are living in a very unique time. So they're very happy to do it. And then when it folded, you know, it crashed. It's like a dream was crashed. In the Shoah, they didn't have a dream. They just, you know, had to go to it. But here they had a dream, they had a challenge, they met it, they fought it, they made it very successful, and then it all broken in 1 minute.
Mm-hmm. Devastating.
Yes,
Yossi, you are the second generation. That's what you're called.
Yes.
You are the child of survivors.
yes.
When you talk to other Israelis who are also second generation, do you feel any link to them?
Maybe you should clarify, because
Do you feel somehow tied to the Shoah
of
through
course,
a second generation, children of the Holocaust?
not by second generation, but I feel very much connected to the Shoah and the Shoah stories, and then what it really teaches us, of course, but not exactly of second generation.
Okay.
I met people who lived in the Shoah. I met later on in 1979, my aunt, which I didn't know about existence, came to our house, and then at the age of 32, I found my aunt, and she told me about really how it was happening in Skarjiska working camp. And so I know quite the first knowledge of how the Shoah was at least for my parents.
Do you know anything about your mother and father as people? What were they like? Do you know anything about them?
I think I know.
Tell me.
My mother really was very much energetic, I would say. Energetic. She didn't have the gene she was never afraid. She was very aggressive, insistive. If she had something in mind, she would do it. Sooner or later, better sooner, she would do it. Like she became, you know, my father's friend. She would do everything. She was this is about really, she was nice. She was what people call shikse. This is, you know what I heard so many times, is red cheeks, blonde hair, blue eyes. I have children and grandchildren that looks very much like her.
Your mother, your mother was beautiful.
Yes, she was. And so she was very much known for her aggressiveness and temper. My father, I would say, a quiet leadership. At the beginning, I was thinking, or let's say for a long time, I was thinking he much, you know, in her shadow. He was a very calm guy and, nothing special to tell about. But sometimes we made a book called The Children of Kfar Etzion. And after this book went out like 8 years ago, so this was, if I can indicate one single event that we can that opened my mouth, was this book of The Children of Kfar Etzion. Somebody called me, get me by the mobile phone in the car, and said, "Look, you are not describing your father very well. You're making a mistake on him." I said, "Oh, please tell me." Say, he was my instructor in Germany in the transfer camp, and then later on in Cyprus, and we all admired him. He was such a leader. We would just go, blind eyes after him. So I now understand that my father was really a very nice personality, quiet but a leader. He also then was a tendency for mechanics. He was also the photographer in Kfar Etzion, so he also developed the films in Kfar Etzion. So many of the photos we have today from the siege time came probably from his, what we call, laboratory. Yeah, he was a very, very kind person. But really, my mother was unique. She was the only mother staying in Kfar Etzion, so naturally, she catched much more attention than him.
All the other mothers were evacuated.
Yes.
Your mother didn't want to go at the beginning.
No.
She also was ambivalent only because she did want to be with her son, her 1-year-old son.
Yes.
But she stayed.
Yes.
Now go on with the story.
Yes. So I understand today, and because, people analyze it even during the wartime, why she decided to stay. So she said that what uttered expressly, very openly. She said she didn't want to separate from her husband after 1 year and 3 months. They all understood that this is a temporary separation between me and them. So she decided to send me with a nurse, her friend, and she made the nurse promise to her that if something will happen to her in Kfar Etzion, that she will take care of me and will raise me. And at the end of the day, it didn't happen like this. And but she gave me to Tzipora Bilig, a very good friend of her, and a nurse in Kfar Etzion, and she was taking care of me.
Her name was Tzipora?
Tzipora, again. So the letters between them, by the way, is Shalom Tzipora, from Tzipora, it's Tzipora all the time. And Tzipora did not talk with me until about 10 years ago about this, really how it happened. How was this minute that my mother gave me to her? She didn't probably, because, I was with Tzipora Bilik for about 1.5 years. When I was at the age of 2.5 years, the kibbutz, at that time, the people who were evacuated from Kfar Etzion first to Jerusalem, then to Petach Tikva, then in the end of the summer, 1948, we were moved to Givat Aliyah, on the border between Jaffa and Bat Yam. Jaffa is near Tel Aviv. And we were raised as a kibbutz in the city. 17 men, 50 women, because many were killed in Kfar Etzion, and like 70 children. So at that time, when I was 2.5 years old, it still was a kibbutz. And the kibbutz decided to move me from Tzipora Bilig, whom her husband was alive, she already had a child, to move me from Tzipora to Chaviva. Chaviva Van Der was a widow of Kfar Etzion. She had difficulties to have a baby. So the kibbutz decided that it's very poetic, to move me to that a child without a family will be connected to a woman without children. So she became a mother, and she was a beautiful mother, Chaviva, beautiful, really. And
you loved her?
I loved her very, very much. I also see a lot of behavior of myself that I can see coming from Chaviva, many. I cannot really say about my parents, but I can see what Chaviva gave me. She passed away about 30 years ago.
Sorry, how many?
30 years ago.
A long time ago.
She was much older than she was about 35 years old. You see, the founders of Kfar Etzion, Chaviva was one of them, during the battles, they were about 35 years old. My mother was 20. So it's about 15 years difference, and she was much older than my mother. And she gave me really excellent life. And today I have relatives all over. I have relatives from my father's side, from my mother's side, from my adopting mother's side. And so I keep quite good contact with all of them. So Tzipora Bilig called me 10 years ago when she was about 80. And she told me the story and said, look, Yossi, I make a vote to you, to your mother, that I shall take care of you.
A promise.
A promise. A neder. How do you say neder?
Promise.
A promise.
Pledge, right.
Pledge. And I couldn't stand it. So I said, why? I said, because the kibbutz pushed me to make the decision. They didn't force me, but they forced me. So I moved you to your mother and to Haviva. And I was really, I had a lot of agony about this situation. So about a few months ago, I went to a Rav to ask what to do with the pledge. And he said, you know, we'll go to the grave of Tzipora and try to open the pledge, how do you say, להתיר את הנדר.
Yeah, but in essence, you're going to nullify the pledge. You were going to nullify it. You were going to release
the pledge. So she went to the grave and released the pledge. And then she felt good enough to call me and tell me this story. And she was very glad to hear that I'm not angry with her or something. So I never even suspected that something was here, and I never was angry with her. And I'm never angry with anybody, by the way, as a philosophy of life. Anger is just, take your resources without really any benefit. So this is it about, I stayed with Chaviva later on. I didn't know, by the way, until the age of 9 and a half, that Chaviva is not my mother. Then, I heard people in the street ask me if I know that I'm adopted and she's not my mother.
That's how you learned this?
Yes.
From people in the street?
Yes.
That's sort of not nice.
And no, it's not nice. It's very common. By the way, in these years, in the 50s, very, very common. People did not talk openly with people. Many of my friends were orphans of Kfar Etzion, and their mothers were married to a second husband, learn about that the husband is not their father, the same age, around 7, 8, 9, from the street, not because somebody told them.
Okay. And how does a child assimilate that, Yossi?
I don't know.
I mean, weren't you shocked?
I was shocked. But
Were you hurt?
No. I was shocked. But then I realized that I don't really have opportunities. I cannot really, at the age of 9, say, okay, I go away or something. You beyond understood the situation.
But you loved your mother. You loved her.
Very much.
And did you say to her,
Of course, I asked, how come, and why didn't you tell me before? And I don't remember what was the answer, what were the answers.
Probably but it made you feel better?
Later on, I lived with it. So, and we never talked about it too much, really.
So let's bring it up more now to the present.
Okay.
After the Six-Day War,
yes,
the land of Kfar Etzion becomes again administered by the State of Israel.
Yes.
It becomes known as the West Bank, Judea, Samaria, West Bank. Okay.
Yes.
And the children, the surviving children.
Children of Kfar Etzion, that's what they call us.
Okay. They want to resurrect this community.
Yes.
Right? Now, were you a part of that?
I was part at the beginning.
Yes.
I was in the first 3 months.
Yes.
At that time, I was in the Technion. I was studying electronic engineering, and it was it. So I came in the vacation between 3rd and 4th years and stayed in Kfar Etzion for 3 months.
Did you like it?
Yes, very much. I felt, pride about this being part of this building. But later on, then I had to go back to the Technion to finish the 4th year, and I came every second week to stay in Kfar Etzion and help as much as I could. But later on, I joined the army. So in the army, in the Air Force, you are where the position you, where station you. So I could not really live in Kfar Etzion while I was in the army, but I knew that my position will take me from the north to the south to the middle of the country. And with the transportation of 1967, in the 60s and 70s in Israel, it would take you about 2.5 hours to go from Kfar Etzion to Tel Aviv or to any other place. So it was not practical to live there. When I married in 1969, I tried to put my place of living very nearby my position in the Air Force. So coming back to Kfar Etzion was not really practical. Well, I keep very warm feeling. I'm visiting a lot of time. I'm today part of the committee of the children of Kfar Etzion. Really take care of the memorial of Kfar Etzion. So we're investing quite a lot of time in Kfar Etzion, a lot of friends there. But then I'm living in Elkanah in the Shomron.
You're on the West Bank.
On the West Bank.
Yes.
Yes.
So talk to me about your perspective. And in the American community, American Jewish community, there's so much discussion about the appropriateness, the inappropriateness, the wisdom, the lack of wisdom of the entire settlement movement. And really, the people who, the children of Etzion, who came back to the Etzion block, in essence, they are credited for beginning what we now call the settler movement. Yeah. And the settler movement is so much broader than American Jews tend to understand. Mm-hmm. There are, sort of stereotypes of what settlers are that very often have absolutely nothing to do with the reality. They are also now, we call them settlements. It's a very unfortunate word. You're talking about Jewish communities.
Right.
Of various size. Sometimes they're villages, sometimes they're small cities, sometimes they're even larger cities. Mm-hmm. And they are beautifully built, and they are an attempt to create real, again, communities for Israelis who, for whatever reason, are not living inside the Green Line or living out. Sometimes there's economic incentive, sometimes there is a kind of religious incentive as well. But the vast majority of people who live on the West Bank, on Judea, Samaria, are not there for religious reasons. They're there for other reasons. And they're not crazy fanatics either.
No.
And it's unfortunate the way the settler movement has been portrayed in the media, and very often it colors the way American Jews understand it. At the same time, there are questions to be asked, and I want to hear what you have to say. Mm-hmm. There are many people who argue that settlements in general, that Israeli presence on the east side of the Green Line, on what's called the West Bank, has created problems for the state of Israel. And the problems are twofold. Number one, there is an Arab world that doesn't want, first, they don't want Jews anywhere, but they certainly don't want Jews on the West Bank. And as a result, it necessitates an IDF presence, that money and time and energy and personnel have to be deployed on the West Bank to protect the settler community, and that's a drain on the state of Israel. Number two, there are some people who now believe that the settlements are a major impediment to working out any kind of peaceful resolution between Israel and the Palestinian community, and therefore they are an obstacle to peace, and that in some way they are an unfortunate expression of Israeli life post-1967. So first, in general, what do you want to say to the, you're speaking to not only the Jewish community, we have many non-Jews who are now watching on Shalom TV. You have a chance basically to express yourself to a large segment of the American and American Jewish population. What do you want us to know? What's your perspective on the settlement movement in general, and on how Kfar Etzion and the Etzion bloc apply to it?
I would say that Kfar Etzion was not really a settlement. It was the first one to go back and return to our place, which was acquired by blood. So I feel Kfar Etzion is one story, all the rest is a different story, including the place I'm living today. So Kfar Etzion is a very unique situation, was acquired by blood, very special history. I would say I wouldn't judge Kfar Etzion area today with all the others. Now about all the others, I remember in the Oslo Agreement, 1993, I was quite, drunken. I was so happy about this Oslo Peace Agreement that I remember myself at that time saying, if needed for the peace, to leave Elkanah, the place I'm living, which is only 5 kilometers on the east side of the Green Line, I'm ready to leave. Peace is more important. If there is a peace like between Canada and US, it is not so important really if I'm sitting here, I'm sitting there. You see, from my point of view, all Israel is just the same importance. So for me to sit here or there, it's just the same place.
It's all Eretz Israel. You'll live
all
anywhere.
Eretz Israel. I can live here, I can live there.
Yes.
I was really happy about it, and I was ready to do whatever needed to support the peace process. After 20 years, and the suicide bombers, and the relationship we had with the Arabs and with the Arab world, seeing what we call today the Arab Spring, and really, I don't trust the Arabs these days. I really don't trust them. So even a piece of paper and whatever called peace, I would ask for 50 years history to see that really, okay, it's something that existing, can be trusted, that if we move here, we have today the evacuation. You asked about the military that protected the settlers. We had the evacuation from the Gaza Strip, Gush Katif, about 9 years ago. We're investing in the army much more today after evacuation from Gush Katif than we did before. And we
in terms of Gaza?
In Gaza, yeah,
yes.
Around Gaza. So I don't know, let's say today, if you take the situation that all the people living behind the green line will go back, I don't think we should save anything in military actions. Today, with a level of trust I have today with the Arabs.
Are you saying, by the way, that you have less trust now than you once did?
I have much less trust than I wanted to have today, yes. I don't trust at all today. I hear, you see Abu Mazen, his contradiction to Shoah, although he said a few days ago something different. And I see Yasser Arafat, one day he really say Shalom, and the other one he encouraged the suicide bombers to go and explode among us. So I don't trust. I would say every process we should try to build, I would like to see in very many years that the process is keeping itself, that there is a good relationship, that the books in the schools, in the Arab, in the Palestinian world, are, talking about peace, not about hatred. So a very complicated process should happen on the other side before I believe that we can really live in peace with the Palestinians. And if we have a real peace, let's just assume so. At this end, I really don't care if I live in 5 kilometers this side or this side of the Green Line. There is a very problematic issue about Jerusalem. Jerusalem, was just a finger before. Today, half of the settlers are living in Jerusalem, by the way. 10 kilometers here, 10 kilometers there. I don't really see how you take it out. It's not possible.
Okay, but the reality is that every time people talk about a two-state solution, they seem to include the settlements that ring Jerusalem into Jerusalem proper.
They call the Gushim.
Exactly.
The Gushim.
Really, the settlements that are at issue it's the Ariels and the Elkanahs further out into Judea, Samaria, the West Bank, that are more problematic than the ring around Jerusalem. I don't know for a fact that the Palestinians agree with this, but that's the assumption that's being made.
This is the assumption.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand you and the audience understands you. You are saying, Yossi, that if there were real, honest peace between the Palestinian people and the State of Israel, you would be willing to see Israel give up the West Bank?
No. Maybe some of it. I can understand. You see, I want to see all the West Bank as part of Israel. But I understand that there is a possibility that we shall have to give up at least something in order to make it, right?
And you are willing to give that up?
I'm not willing. I shall agree to this,
That's willing.
Because that's willing?
It's not that you don't want to give it up, but you will give it up.
I may give it up some.
What do you mean may? You're taking a step
this will
back
make
on
the peace?
me now.
Right now, I'm not. I really
said
don't.
to you, if it were real.
Yes.
If it were real.
After 30, 40 years of real peace,
yes.
It can be considered, yes.
That's not
it's
good
very
enough.
difficult to say.
Why is it so hard for you? You told me you're ready to leave your own community. You said
20 years ago I was ready. Today?
Yes, because
I'm not thinking today.
Oh, wait a minute. 20 years ago you believed.
Yes.
You had faith.
Yes.
You trusted a little bit more.
Yes.
Imagine that you were right. What if that were to happen again? What I'm saying is there are two realities. One is the reality on the ground today. You don't trust
Yeah.
I don't trust. I get it.
Yeah.
But I also argue, and I want to know whether you think I'm right or not, that the reason you are so ambiguous in your answer right now, tentative in your answer, is you don't believe it. But I'm asking you a theoretical question. What if I promised you, the Palestinians mean it, they're going to change the textbooks, the television in the Palestinian Authority will change.
And they will prove it on ground.
And they'll prove it on the ground, and they have a total change of heart. If there were a total, honest change of heart in that theoretical possibility,
I'm ready for separation.
You're ready, okay.
From geographic separation.
And it would pain you,
yeah,
but you would do it.
Yes.
Okay, and I argue that that is basically the overwhelming sentiment among the Israeli people. The problem is, in the last 20 years, you don't believe it anymore.
No.
Okay, and therefore, when you hear a two-state solution, you're right away saying, they'd have to prove this to me, and I don't trust them, and I don't believe it. They proved what they are in Gaza. I don't trust them at all, and therefore, I'm not about to give up land.
They proved just the opposite in the last 20 years. What happened in the with the suicide bombers, what happened in Gaza after we gave them all Gaza. If they were, you would try to develop the area, take all the sun houses, that there were there for hundreds of millions of dollars there, left for them, just make a nice
all the
agriculture.
greenhouses.
All the greenhouses. They just, destroyed everything. They didn't really want to develop the area. They wanted to continue to fight with us.
Do you know any Palestinians?
Yes.
Do you think any of the Palestinians...
By the way, I have a very good relationship with individual Palestinians.
Okay.
Many. I was doing business with them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really like them very much.
Okay. Do you believe any of them, in their heart, are willing to live in peace with Israel?
Yes. Some of them, yes.
Some of them, yes.
Yes.
The problem is, A, they're not in power, and there's not enough of them.
Probably they are not enough in power, or think so.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they are afraid of
But the bottom line is, you don't trust at the moment that that those in power really want to live side by
I'm
side.
sure that Abu Mazen cannot really acknowledge Jewish state, okay? He cannot. Maybe the one who will come after him will be able to do it.
Is it important to you that they acknowledge a Jewish state?
Yes.
Because?
Because the Jewish state means end of the conflict. This means Jewish state, not because I want to be Jewish. I know we are Jewish, right? But when he says, yes, I understand, this is a Jewish state, he will not ask refugees to go back. This is a Jewish state, right? This is the end of the conflict because I already acknowledged it. So this is a lot, this meaning a lot, this acknowledge of Jewish state.
So I had a conversation today before I came to see you.
Okay.
Okay. With a physician, a wonderful physician here in New York named Howard Shear, who does fabulous work. His son is also part of an organization called Seeds for Peace, an attempt to bring Israelis and Palestinians together. And I had a very interesting conversation with Howard Shear about the problem, the complexity, which is the right word. Making peace in the Middle East is very, very complex. It's very, very difficult to know exactly how you navigate this path. And so I'm talking to him, and he said to me what I hear all the time. If Israel is creating obstacles, the obstacle is settlements. So I said to him, if tomorrow Israel promised it will never build another settlement, do you think it'll make peace? He said, no. He said, the problem is you have an entrenchment on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the reality. He then said to me the following, and this is what I want you to comment on. But if Israel made some sweeping declaration that it would no longer, or for a period of time, not build any settlements, it would take one of the bogus issues off the table. The world couldn't say, oh, you see the problem of the Israelis. And that therefore, even if it did not bring peace, it would be better for the state of Israel in terms of world public opinion. I want to know your analysis of that.
I agree with you. It will be better for Israel from the public opinion. I don't believe it will make any move or change in the Arab side. So the question is, are you going to make it only just to be on the right side in the eyes of the world? Or you don't because you believe it will not really make any change? I used to say, 10 years ago, that the settlements are not really an obstacle to peace. This is the only thing which may move the Arabs towards peace. Because if they are not making peace, we are making more settlements, right? So I thought, if you want really to have something, please come immediately, because otherwise, if you come in 50 years, maybe we should all be covered with so many settlements. So I thought, naively, that maybe the settlements can make the peace even closer. But today I would say we can, I would understand Bibi or any prime minister will say, okay, for the next year we are not going to build anything. We give chance to peace. Or just in the borders of the settlements, the existing settlements. My feeling today, will not do anything. Mm-hmm. But maybe we should not, but for sure we should be shown much better in the eyes of the world.
And there would be value to that?
There will be some values, yes. But I would say it's pragmatic. It's not idealistic. It's pragmatic, yes, it will help. If it would make a change with the Arabs, today I don't trust it. I don't believe it.
There are also people who argue that the government of Israel, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, really doesn't want a two-state solution. That they're hoping there's always something that prevents it, and that in the end, even if there were some kind of Palestinian movement to really live side by side with the Jewish state of Israel, that the Netanyahu government, the way it's constructed, would never accept it, and that Benjamin Netanyahu is caught in a political dilemma where the majority of his own party is to the right of him to an extent that they would never permit the government to stand if he ever made a real concession for peace. What is your sense?
I think that what really move and push these people to think, I think it's the same issue of trust I told you before. If it would come 20 years ago, I don't remember such a resistance to any peace discussions, right? In 1993, it was not this situation. We were all enthusiastic about the peace with Egypt, although we returned 2.5 times more land than we have in Israel. We are very happy about the peace with Jordan, although we have to give them 50 million cubic meters water every year. And we have to give them some land also, and we have a lot of agreements. So we were quite happy with the peace. So 20 years ago, Netanyahu could do whatever he wants, and he would not see this right wing in his political party. I would say this is the same trust issue. I don't think there is the same idealistic. There are what we call the rightists who are coming from the place, God gave us this land, we cannot, because there are many people like this, but these are far away from being the majority. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's just a trust issue. Netanyahu is also moved by non-trust. I think this is what's really moving him.
And what do you say to those who argue that the current situation, the current status quo, is untenable long-term for the state of Israel, and that Israel must, in some way, change the dynamic of the relationship between Israel and the Palestinians who live on the West Bank, that Israel's future is dependent upon some resolution?
We need a resolution. You see, most of the problem with the right-wing discussion is that when people are, okay, so what do you suggest?
Yes.
How you will really give democracy, or how do you really try to, if you don't want an apartheid land, then what you really suggest to do? The answers on the right wing right now in this are not so clear, let's say this way. So we should find a resolution, how we live in the existing situation without being in apartheid land, or such a population without, let's say, voting rights. I think it can be solution. It can find a solution maybe by giving citizenship only to those who want really to unite, to go with us. So we have 1 million, 1.5 million Palestinians. Okay, you should be able to be a citizen of Israel. Only, like I said, being citizen of the US, you have to go 5 years, you have to learn the language, you have to learn the history, you have to say something, you believe. So maybe the process of being citizen of Israel is not automatic. You will have some rights in midterm, but then in order to join really Israel, if it will found to be, a two-nation land, there will be a long process to become a citizen of Israel. Then maybe you could make a selection.
Okay. Yossi, I think you said very, very well. It's not, by the way, popular at the moment. The one-state solution where we give a path to citizenship for the Palestinians on the West Bank at the moment is not accepted worldwide or even of a large extent.
I know.
But it seems to me that it is becoming more of an option that must be considered. You are involved in a project that deals with the Etzion block and Kfar Etzion.
Yes.
The JNF is part of this project.
Yes.
I want you to tell our audience a little bit about what you're doing because it's so fascinating.
We have today a museum in Kfar Etzion, a visitor center, existing there for like 30 years or so. And so this is what we are trying to do in Kfar Etzion, in the modern visitor centers in Israel. You can really, for 1 hour, you can be part of the experience.
Interactive.
Interactive, yes. Instead of sitting, in hall with 100 seats and just looking for 20 minutes for audiovisual presentation, try to move like around an hour and a half and feel you are part of the people who came to Kfar Etzion, fought for Kfar Etzion, built Kfar Etzion, and you really can understand much better and feel the experience of what we had there and what we lost there.
It is a wonderful project, and I'm very glad you had a chance to tell us about it. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately specifically, the Etzion block is often used as a symbol of a militant, religious, right-wing settler community that believes that all of Eretz Yisrael was given to the Jewish people by God and that not 1 inch of Judea, Samaria, the West Bank should ever be compromised in any kind of peace process. And that as a result, the Etzion block is somehow symptomatic of the worst part of the settler experience and the settlement movement that, again, many American Jews and Americans think is a reason why we don't have peace in the Middle East between Israel and the Palestinians.
I don't think.
Talk to me about who are the people?
Well, the people in Gush Etzion block really are not the right wing in Israel. I can tell you more interesting even. We were 71, the children of Kfar Etzion. Out of them, 47 became orphans in the last battle after the massacre. Out of these 71, most of them are alive, I think, rather than about 4 or 5 of them. Most of them are alive. There are few out of them which are really right-wing. I would like to indicate Hanan Porat, a quite known name. He was the child number 12. We, by the way, received numbers by the birth. And Hanan was the number 12. I was number 40. Hanan was, of course, right-wing, which believe what you just said. I think most of us are not this way. I think most of us are like center, probably center-right. There are some center-left or left. They are not living in Kfar Etzion. The leftists are not living in Kfar Etzion today. But even among us, we are not this right side. Now, if I know the people of Efrat, of Tkoa, where Shani is coming from, or Nokdim, where our foreign affairs minister is coming from, I think most of the people are very realistic, very practical, pragmatic, and understand. And most of them really understand that there will be some compromise if we should have the right people on the other side to make the process with us. This is my feeling. And Etzion block is not the right wing. I think they're very center right, I would say.
Okay.
No more than that.
We have to end. I could talk to you for hours, but so I want to end it this way. If there's a message you had for American Jews and for people of goodwill, and I want you to talk right to the camera, what's the message? What would you wish people understood more, better about Israel today?
I think this is a nice question. You know, I was asked in the past if I hate the Arabs. You know, after what they really, they killed my parents, they massacred, slaughtered them. If I hate the Arabs, and my answer always, and really this is what I feel, I don't hate the Arabs. I would very much like, and you know, I think this is the message I believe most of the Israelis feel, that they would like to make a peace with them. We would like to be in a position really that we can trust them, and then from a place of trust, I think we can do very, very beautiful things together. The main question really how to build this trust between the two people. This is a question that I don't have really the answer right now. I have feelings, but not really decisions. Yeah. So this, I would say, my message there, it's a doable thing. But I believe that the problem is mainly right now, and maybe I'm one-sided, the problem right now on the other side, to be with us on this, they are not yet.
Yossi, it is wonderful. You're an extraordinary human being.
What
a joy it's been to meet you. When I come to Israel one day, I want to come to your home and I want to meet Esty and I want you to meet my wife Ruth.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope there are reasons for you to sit at this table many times. We've just scratched the surface.
Okay.
But you are wonderful, and I thank you for the service you've given not only the state of Israel, but really to the Jewish people. Kol tuv v'hatzlacha. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yossi Ron, again, one of the children who comes from Kfar Etzion, and he is doing extraordinary things in the state of Israel, and what a joy it is for me to be able to present him to you. As always, if there are any thoughts you have to some of the ideas expressed by Yossi Ron, please be in touch with me this week. Email me, write me, post on our Facebook wall, tweet me. I love hearing from you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub, L'chaim, my friends, to life.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish Education in Media.